everyone. Welcome to Traveling Molly's open mic and reading series. My name is DeGenova, for those who haven't met me before. My co-host Nina Corwin is absent tonight, so I will be running things from here. We have two featured readers tonight after our open mic. Both of them are featured in the new issue of After Hours magazine. For those who don't know, I'm the publisher and editor of After Hours, and it's really not related to the Traveling Molly's open mic. Sometimes people get it all confused because I have my hands in too many pots. But so tonight we're featuring Kevin Burris, who won After Hours' Mary Blinn poetry competition this year. And then our featured writer in this issue is Carlos Cumpian, who's will then read after Kevin. And I guess that's the update. I'll tell people later as well, but if anybody wants to order a copy of After Hours to read our featured readers' work in person, you can go to afterhourspress.com. It's afterhourspress.com. And I have to apologize. We have some technical difficulties with our website. It's not updated yet, but if you order the current issue, you will get the current issue, which is issue 42, which has Carlos and Kevin both in there. And actually tonight we have here in the open mic, Ralph Murray, who is also in the magazine, and Bob Chicoine, who will be reading in the open mic, who is a finalist in the contest. And we've got a couple others here too tonight. Kevin Shine is in the magazine. And so I think we should get going. So as I said, I usually start just so nobody has to be first in the open mic. I recently taught a class at the Clearing Folk School in Door County, Wisconsin. And I give my class prompts to get their writing going. And but during class, I don't usually perform the prompts myself. It's just too much thinking to teach and be doing spontaneous writing at the same time. So what I did was I actually wrote a prompt, wrote one of my own prompts. And this is the poem that came out of that. The prompt was, "The morning sun opens her pink robe." So I use that as the title. The morning sun opens her pink robe, and you don't want to look away. The blue hour fades in her smile. She wraps pink around you, the scent of her warm breasts, her scars against your cheek, seductive as green absinthe, intoxicating with the promise of noon, and the white heat of her reaching the roots of you, the white heat of her before the night returns with its sad song of the black guitar. And so that's that. Thank you. I see the silent claps. Thank you. And oh, well, I don't know if anybody can see, but I introduce my co-editor, Pat Hertel, who just showed up to the reading. You probably can't see her. Pat, if you say hello, people will see you. I don't know if she heard me, but anyway, for those who can see, Pat is the co-editor of After Hours. And now we'll get going with with our open mic. I'm thinking who shall start. Let's start with Bob. Bob was a finalist in the Mary Blinn contest. Bob Chicoine, read for us this lovely Monday night.
Sure will. I got the usual bunch of shorties here. Panache. After 5 seasons of practice, I take off my face mask with a flip of 2 fingers. The way I learned finally to unhook my first girlfriend's brassiere before she found a boy who needed only 1 finger. And after that, a boy who could remove it with his breath. I aim to make a splash in life, but climate change has dried up all the lakes and rivers. Alas, I see that you, ardent inventor, still have running water. Would you mind if I leaped in beside you, relaxing in your bath? Immemorial crush. Instead of flower petals, I pluck off the ruling civilizations of history. Mesopotamia, she loves me. Egypt, she loves me not. Hellenia, she loves me. Rome, she loves me not. Ottoman, she loves me. England, she loves me not. America, she loves me. China, she loves me not. Oceania, she loves me. Atlantis, she loves me not. Mars, she loves me. Andromeda, she loves me not. My backyard tonight, she loves me. I love to see the circle stain of your wine glass on my abdomen come morning. How still I must have kept for you to rest it there, watching me while I slept. Laying down on the bed of the dried up river, we make love not for progeny or for ecstasy, but to compose once more from our unbroken deserts a form of water. Medias res. When she goes to list all the boys and men she has slept with, she can't decide whether to count forward from the beginning or recall our names going backward, or else zigzag, starting in the middle with the ones she was sure at the time would make her forget all the others. I will smell better than this, I promise, once I decompose. Your nostrils will constrict and flare into what you always hope for in a nose. Even if you begin to question everything under heaven, beauty and kindness, love's persistence, humor, wit, passion, all life passing through, know that I'll never ask anything of you. DIY Orpheus. An old man climbing a ladder to repair the roof takes care not to look down, not for fear of vertigo, but because he hopes he still has music left in him and would see Eurydice following 2 rungs behind. Initials. The one tree in the open field not visited anymore by young lovers with a blanket and a penknife sharpened for carving, dreams these days of being adored by lightning. And I'll end it with the poem that After Hours and Al were kind enough to include in this great new issue of After Hours, called Aqueduct. In the cellar this morning to check on a leak by the hot water heater, I hear the pipes that gird the house kick on. 2 floors above, you have stepped into the shower and turned the valve. The water leaps through the cast iron work, pretending to be old faithful, ready to slap the rump of life on earth. Soon I hear action in the drain pipe, the water that has found you and taken something of you away with it, full of chatter. You are soaping your arms now, breasts, abdomen, thighs, between your legs. Turning around to catch the spray on your back, ass, calves, you are twisting the nozzle from mist to stream to massage. I put my ear against the black column, my hands around it. You are tilting your face into the jets, your thoughts eel-like adrift, letting the free water strike and fall off your body of water. The snow in the mountains is melting, flooding the rivers. Barren lands will soon be arable. The channeled current running through my grip does not want to be reclaimed. It dreams of riding with the waves in the open sea. Now the flows subside. You must be toweling off or drying by air. I listen here for the last drip trickling down the inside wall of the pipe hidden from my view. The leak, it turns out, is from the masonry, the foundation of this house, impregnable 80 years. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob. Good poems. Now I have to decide who shall read next. Kevin Shine, would you like to read for us? You have to unmute. There you go.
Here I am. Yeah. Hi, Al, and hello, everyone. First time reader here. And really a pleasure and maybe a little nerve-wracking, but here goes. Tonight, I'm going to read a poem inspired by the sense of loss I experienced when my wife and I moved out of the house where we lived for 33 years and where we raised our 2 daughters. But instead of telling the story from the point of view of the homeowner, this poem tells it from the point of view of the house that's being left behind after so many years of faithful service. So with that, here is Letter to the Occupant. Not long ago, I was a house. Excuse me. Not long ago, I was a home, but now am property. A listing in the classifieds. 3 BRs, 2 Bs. You crossed my threshold, man and wife, then brought your newborns home to me. How far they've come since first they crossed my hardwood floors on hands and knees. You framed their pictures K through 12 to lavish love upon. I lived to be the wall you hung their pictures on. I lay awake with you one night, the moon upon my windowsills, your hand upon your spouse's side, your children sleeping steps away. While I was less and less their home, they'd visit for the holidays. Arriving late, too late you hoped to plan an evening out, they kept you company, then off to bed to settle in to my familiarity. I listened as you kept your watch, your loved ones safe, secure, and near, then took your place so you might sleep beyond the reach of rue or fear. Think not you kept me from my rest, your vigil honored me. My joists and rafters settled in and creaked contentedly. Then came the sign I'd seen before in front of former neighbors' yards, as if to say our neighborhood were built with balanced playing cards. I never thought you would impale the lawn you tended lovingly and hang me up for rent or sale on a post for all to see. Then I watched you pack your things and check for items left behind. The etching on my sidewalk stays to mark the place your children signed, their monograms on wet concrete. I won't forget how proud I stood with their initials at my feet. I understand your kids are grown. My stares are tough on aging knees. After all that we've been through, you have my sympathies. Eventually, I'll dwell in peace, but not today, I can't. As you give my keys away, indulge me in a farewell rant and promise me you'll file these words with your closing documents to be retained for future use by the current occupants.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Okay. The sentiment in that is very, very associative. We can all relate, I think. Well, not maybe everybody, but a lot of people can relate to that. Let's get Emily Calvo.
All right. Yeah, I've been kind of debating what to read tonight. I'm rusty. I'm a rusty reader. I haven't been out very much. So we'll start with this one. Gold Standard Meditation. In a space called now, I indulge in nothing. The quiet space where I speak to no one but me, hear nothing but wisps of my breath, feel nothing but the kiss of my breath, the taste, sweet, the silence lingers like hard candy. I indulge in nothing, no deadlines, no reminders, nothing to be fixed, filed, calmed, earned, learned. I indulge in nothing. Channel surf my subconscious while the universe festers with a static hum, desperately trying to win my attention. Okay, in that vein, maybe I'll do this one that I have this thing about coming up with ideas in the shower. I don't know, most creative people can identify with that a little bit. So sometimes that's good, and sometimes my brain distracts me from reality. This one's called In the Shower. Between my ears lay acres of space. Playgrounds, amusement parks, forests, deserts, every neighborhood I called mine, everywhere I hoped to ever be, and domes of starry nights. Behind my right temple, spirits speak in whispers, warnings, praise, and poems, their voices faint and fleeting, float and fade like snowflakes. Behind my left temple, mistakes volley for full frontal. Loud and proud, they crop out affirmations like a bad cell phone connection. Behind my forehead, I stream memories. In Spain, I watched my daughter sort euros as we drank wine at a table on a cobblestone street. At the top of my brain, list cascades, to-dos, groceries, follow-ups, bills to pay. Each item flashes past my retinas until they crash onto paper. Dancing on my musical medulla, I can eat, drive, and smile on autopilot. I struggle with mindfulness. Reality can be mind-numbing, but I emerge into rain, massaging my head and wonder if I am rinsing out my shampoo or the conditioner. I'll do one more called, I ran across a science piece that was describing a new species of chameleon that was discovered somewhere. I think it was Australia, because that seems to be where all weird things are discovered lately, all new species and things. And this chameleon was as big as the top of one's finger. So it's really tiny. It's called Apology from an Invasive Species. Did we discover you, or did you discover humans? Unlike other chameleons, you don't bother to change color. The size of a buttonhole, no one saw you anyway. Do you grow two penises, which is true, they grow two penises, in desperation or passion? Did you evolve to be the smallest to survive, or require less food, less space, less water? We are your invasive species. Are we superior for expanding our trap called civilization, or you for requiring so little the planet could hide you under its greenery for so long? I want to mention, Al, too, if I could take a minute to mention that if anybody enjoys the Poetry Slam and has missed it as much as I have, I've gone there for like 28 years and on a regular basis at the Uptown Poetry Slam. So we're rebooting it to be the Last Word Poetry Slam, which is going to be at Martyrs this Saturday afternoon at 1. And we're taking advantage of all the technology now. And so there's going to be poets tuning in from Turkey is the feature, and along with, I don't know if you remember Betty's Mouth and Sin Salach and Sheila Donahue, and also Danny Solis from Minneapolis, who's a great slam poet of national slam fame. So it'll be Zoomed, and also you can get a ticket for $12, and that includes an extra hour of poetry that won't be televised. So anyway, just FYI, and information is on Facebook at Last Word Poetry Slam, or the Last Word Quintet, because that's the group that Mark Smith is in now, and they will be the musical talent for the afternoon. And we're doing it in the afternoon so Europe can tune in and they won't be too hungover or won't be too inconvenient.
Yeah. Well, thank
you. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks you
for having me.
It's good to hear that the slam is back and Mark's going to be up there doing his thing. That's great.
Yep.
Wow. let's see, next, let's have Mike Stevens.
Thank you, Al. Thank you for having me here. And I hope you can hear me okay. Um, and I've published 2 books in the last year. One is called Hobo Haiku. And the other one is called, this just came out, it's History of Theater or the Glass of Fashion. And it's not a history book. It's a book about prose poems and poetry about an out-of-work actor who lands the part of Hamlet. So unlike other poetry books, there is like a fictional narrative going through this book. And I'll read you the first paragraph of the book and the last one. I think that would be about 5 minutes. And I'm glad to be here too. As Kevin mentioned, he was a first timer. I'm a New Yorker, as you can tell from my accent. And then I lived for 15 years in London. And now I'm living in Evanston. I don't know why, but here I am. Ham omelet. O'Shaughnessy sat in his favorite greasy spoon on Upper Broadway, eating the breakfast special of a ham omelet with yellow rice and black beans. He was struck by the thought that he was about to play Hamlet, but not just any Hamlet. His Prince was 10 weeks in the making, 8 in rehearsals, 2 in previews. His Hamlet was an historical one, back in the beginnings of drama, a subject, Cornelius Michael O'Shaughnessy. Some called him Michael or Mike or even Mick, while others called him Con or Connie, and the ones who did not like him very much, that con artist, Michael O'Shaughnessy. He had not pondered since his undergraduate days as a theater major. Back then, he had been required to take the history of theater course in order to graduate. As he sipped strong Spanish coffee, he saw the chorus come through the paradoy, and he thought, I was still in the scene house awaiting my grand entrance. After the great triumvirate of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides died and the Greeks fell out of power, I began to take more liberties with my lines. Mr. O'Shaughnessy thought. Then the emperor Lycurgus passed an edict which forbade the actor from doing this. And it was then I decided to leave Athens and to venture back to Sicily. There was great things still happening abroad now that Titus Andronicus had assumed the stage. And I went back to working in mimes and also found myself portraying the Greek characters, albeit for the Romans now. Menander sought me out for his comedies, and I was working often in his plays, mixing the stories, getting some laughs, living a good life for one who was almost now a slave. But the other actors were talking about Rome, and so I thought I must make my fortune there, and went northward with the caravan, stopping in the Adelon for some farces and mime work along the way. And the last paragraph is called Less. Each day there is less to say, each hour goes by, each time I sit to write, or times when I say it aloud, elbow bent, mouth slung open in the form of a terrified O. Remember the time we did the town? My partner says, but I forget what she is talking about. I am toothless, full of beer and wine, full of it, empty my origin out here on the park bench. The light fades, the shadows still with knives and guns. There are 3 cigarettes left, some almonds in my pocket, a dried apricot, and I hold a paddleball racket in my hand, or I bounce the hard black ball on the concrete, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Remembering nothing, forgetful of my name. Thank God for this old overcoat, tweed. Thank goodness it's not going to rain. There are clouds to be sure, red streaks at sundown, park birds, sparrows, swift, pigeon, even doves lately, and your hand in mine and my other hand holding the paddleball racket. And I hear my wine bottle click against your pocketbook. I hear traffic sounds, nothing to say, nothing to do. I am remembering just that, burnt off images of my former life, that devilish smile which won your heart, remembering your eyes, less red than now, full of wanton desire and mystery, and me then still full of it, full of swagger, and you with your breast, and me with my testicles, and them with their breast, and there was more than change in my pocket. I had a future of sorts. I was a kind of professor, you said. I was kind to you, and I was. Did I ever tell you about the time I played Hamlet? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That'd be an interesting book, I think. So,
Mad Hack Press published it if people are interested.
okay, great.
Thank you.
Next up, let's have Leonard Lund.
Evening, everybody. Two relatively short pieces, wedded to the hip on this August 9th. Some things remain. I'm told my father planted a cherry tree in the front yard between the house and street not long before he went to sea, before I was born. That tree is in this picture, taken 4 years later by someone whose name I was never told, except that it wasn't my father, who I never met. Yes, that's my mother, sitting by my father's tree, and me by her side. We'd just come back from the country, a trip to see my father's mother, which is why we had clean clothes after everything was taken in a flash. It's also why we weren't in the house when it vanished and the tree was burned black and made bare that morning. After this picture was taken, we went back to the country. I didn't get the sickness while we were home, something I don't understand. Perhaps because I was too young to acknowledge grief. My mother mourned my father, our house and city, the cherry tree. And she fell so terribly sick and left me to grow into an old man on the family farm, far enough away from Nagasaki to have lived, but not so far to leave my ghosts there. Elegy. Dig the small grave and place the smaller body so, just so. The chill May rain and the warm human tears falling on her head will serve for the ritual washing of this pup, barely 2 days old. Some future digger after truth, alien or human, kneeling with trowel and brush at this grave, will note in clear, careful script the wonder that a people would be so deliberate with the smallest of their God's creations and so careless of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. That first one is very chilling. Thank you. I just wanted to note that there is a chat if anybody wanted to put a note in the chat or ask a question or whatever. I also put the after hours address there for anyone who wants to see it. Okay, let's next up. How about Patricia McMillan? Patty, it's your turn.
Great, thank you. Hi. Okay, I have 3, if I can get through all of them. What a concussion is like. At first, it's nothing. You've passed out before, or maybe you haven't, but you've experienced irony, that feeling something's a little out of place. A little shock you shake off like water droplets off your hair when you move away from the windy side of the fountain, though not that refreshing. You go to bed. Your head maybe hurts a little, your ego definitely does, but you sleep okay, you wake up, call the number on the copy of the police report the cop handed you afterwards, take your morning meds, make a pot of decaf, put butter and jam on a piece of toast. Pretty normal, really, it's nothing, you think, and then you cut up a red pepper, spread the pieces out on a piece of aluminum foil, put it under the broiler to roast and lie down for a nap, and an hour later, you wake up to the smell of red pepper, charred, black, and dry. You're lucky it didn't burst into flames. You could have burned down the whole building. By the next afternoon, voices on the phone start to sound garbled. You go to your regular massage appointment, tell him not to touch your face, and he doesn't, but he says maybe you should see your primary care doc, which hadn't occurred to you. You ask him for a piece of paper and a pen and write a reminder to yourself, call Dr. S. That's what it's like. Even before you start to wonder whether you'll ever get your brain back, it's like a black cat's crawled in your window at night and you can't chase it out. Thank you. Gaslight. How it becomes you, my love. The flickering warm light on your face of an evening, the sparkle of jewels in your hair, your crimson gown. Pity they've added that sulfur smell to remind us when the flame's gone out. And that's it. That's the poem. And the last one, I read a different version of this, or an earlier draft, but I had to do a lot of revisions. So it's now called Arozarena Makes Himself at Home. Game 6 World Series, October 2020. One day you're a small town Cuban boy who's never heard of AstroTurf, people telling you you're good, but you still wonder, shouldn't you maybe think about doing something else like fry cook, drive a truck, slaughter hogs? But they keep saying no, until this dream is the only thing you have when you're fleeing on a leaky raft, or you break your hand or get a virus and have to take some time off. And then you're 25, you're a dad eating hot dogs on American bread with American mustard. And when you trade chest bumps, you've got to watch you don't hurt someone. So it's 1 out, top of the first, game 6, fucking World Series, man. You're down by 1 game and you're eyeing a high slider, letting it go, and it's 0-1. The crowd's made of cardboard, and the next pitch already coming fast, could be 85, 86, 90 miles an hour. Every sinew in your body points to center left. Your will's stone hard. It's like you almost don't need a bat. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Good ones. Next up, John Simmons.
Okay, I'm here. Can anybody hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. And speaking of baseball, let me add to the unhappiness of Brewer fans by telling you that my favorite team is the San Francisco Giants. And my family in San Francisco, I visit with them every year. And on my birthday, we go to the Giants stadium, which is currently now called Oracle Park, but has been AT&T and other names. Anyway, we go every July 4th for my birthday, and this one happened in 2018. It's called Dreams in the Dust. And I think I can tell by the faces of this group that everyone knows that James Sturber is the author of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that, but sometimes younger audiences have to be clued in. It's a sub-theme of this poem. Okay, here we go. Dreams in the Dust. San Francisco. What was an 83-year-old man doing on the base paths at AT&T Park that late July afternoon, 2018? Living a happy fantasy he hoped would not end in handcuffs, that his excuse of granddaughter escort would convince stadium staff as he smiled at groundskeepers and others on watch at each turn of the diamond. I'm having a Walter Mitty moment, he said as he stepped on first base, right behind the girls, 10 and 6, both racing to see who could circle the bases first, ignoring Papa, jogging farther behind, feeling the hard brown dust push back against the cushioned soles of his birthday street shoes. The Giants had beaten the Cardinals 13-8, capped by Pablo's towering splash into the right field cove, a prize for waiting fans in small boats to chase with long-handled nets, a souvenir blast from a maturing hero, beloved to fans as Kung Fu Panda. A fine light brown and pavement firm, the paths conveyed the gold dust promise of the city's history, and an old guy's young dreams detoured to distance, running, but still a fan forever, channeling Jeffrey Leonard, annoying the Cards as he celebrated playoff homers in '87, one arm down like a splinted wing, hinting or flaunting that being hurt put no limits on his power as he rounded Candlestick's bases. The old guy jogger flashed back deeper to a white-haired man seated, waiting, unseeing, to be honored at an unveiling. At second base, another smile, a further Mitty comment that in the sunny fog, the sunny jog to third, remembering what extra bases felt like when this happened in a game, the base coach flat-handing signs to dive to beat the hard bounce outfield throw. The famous writer was still waiting for a ritual celebrating him to start. At third, the Mitty mention was the password as smaller, younger legs crowded wide turns at the bag, finally heading home to stomp the plate. Family cheering him in. Nice going, Papa. And the 10-year-old said, you almost caught us. A parent at the plate laughed, something you can cross off your list. Yes, my Tapakata list, he thought, quick as a memory flash to a young writer's long ago moment. With James Thurber, then 65, blind, Mitty's author, nearing death in 1960, maybe sensing how tensely his sash-yanking Ohio hosts struggled to reveal a campus portrait in his native Columbus. Thurber sat in quiet Buckeye patience, perhaps daydreaming of cartoons or punchlines on aging in place, waiting for a slow curtain to yield a ceremonial round of applause, a too late entry for his carnival of hits. The base path wannabe, a Thurber fan sensed beyond a baseball birthday, a fleeting comic world worth sharing. One day when the games had ended. Thanks very much.
Okay. Fun. That was fun. Thank you. Wow.
These are, it's in my, I don't know if you can see this. It's called In a Roundabout Way, just off the presses. In a Roundabout Way. That's my, it's in there. Thank you very much for allowing me to share. And I hope my voice was not unpleasantly loud.
It was just fine. Thank you. Congratulations on the book.
I'll compare my New York accent to Michael S.'s. I think it's comparable quality.
Okay, I won't mention my Chicago accent. So let's have Ralph Murray.
There. Greetings, everybody. If I may, I want to read two poems of mine that are in the current After Hours, for which thank you very much, Al and Pat. I guess most everything I write is thinly disguised autobiography. This first one is not disguised at all. Pure autobiography. The times. When it looked like I wouldn't know hard times, I went out and made some for myself. but I still got to choose between food and smokes. When it looked like I wouldn't know good times, I drank from the bottom shelf, gallon of Kribari wine, case of Bullfrog beer, both jokes. Knew some artists, blew some weed, pulled lath in a redwood mill. When I saw where the continent ended, I thought I could come back to the middle, but I wasn't in there anywhere I looked. When I saw where Kerouac's Wanderers ended, Dean Moriarty, Sal Paradise, that whole riddle, my goose seemed cooked, everything upended. Joined the Boilermakers, drank Boilermakers, read books, built some bulldozers, built some boats, had sons, listened to Janis Joplin, who had some idea, liked Ian and Sylvia, worked half-hearted for money, wholehearted for free, saw wars on TV while the National Guard owned me 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in summer, kept one of their helicopters copting mood indigo skies, questioned all the orders, and don't question me about the order of any of this because it doesn't matter, splattered paint on canvas and walls, rode motorcycles, rode skiffs, sailed sloops, decked on tugs, disappointed good women, lusted, planted trees, drove a blue tractor with tangerine wheels, sat atop a workhorse in the snow, never learned to swim, but have kept afloat, never learned to write, but wrote. My light is failing me here. This thing goes by the title of Untitled AM. Begins with an epigraph by Leonard Cohen. This morning is another morning. Flowers have opened up again. Men turn on their sides to see whom they have married. Everything is ready to begin anew. And then you were there to turn to as the seven sisters set. And I wondered if regret had its own hour, and the gardener turned the soil before setting out flower or fruit. And I love to look back at yesterday done, the field plowed, the field planted, the field new mown. And somewhere was a bell, its bronze mouth singing, signifying something like a day or a death or a consecration. And wave after wave rounded the rocks of the shore, and the battered boats returned to the sea. And milkweeds burst beside diesel truck roadways with red-tailed hawks on high wires. And someone wrapped champagne in bright ribbons to launch a ship. And someone tied evergreen to roof beam to top off a church. A bull calf was born, a sheep was shorn, and every new morn a weaver wove on toward endless west, and a voice called a stray dog back from the future saying, "It is not time yet, it is not time." White-shelled eggs were broken into black iron pans, all their sunny sides up for an instant, and distant. So distant was afternoon, and beyond imagination, the night. Thank you.
Very nice. Thanks. Thank you for reading that for us. Oh. Next, I want to call up Cynthia Gallagher. I haven't heard you read in such a long time, Cynthia.
Thank you, Al. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm real happy to be here. Lately I've been writing a lot of poems about food, and because I'm a certified aromatherapist, and what does that mean? I like essential oils. I've been writing about oils lately, and some of them are medicinal, some of them are mainly used for perfume. And this one is about neroli oil. And what's strange about it is it was a scent for women, and now it's been more identified for men. So the poem is called Neroli Rolls in the Hay with Anybody. Neroli, oil from bitter orange blossoms, smelling nothing like orange, evoking the more intimate, sexy, calming, from a key component in the classic eau de cologne recipe, worn by Marie Antoinette and Napoleon alike, to a secret ingredient in Coca-Cola Classic. So relaxing and euphoric, they warn sensitive people not to drive after applying, unless your destination is the bedroom. As yoga has gone from a male-oriented practice in India to a female one in the West, neroli, historically considered a feminine scent, made famous by a duchess in Nerola, Italy, who scented her bath in gloves in the oil, is now celebre of the men's cologne counter, flacons bearing names such as Heretic Dirty Neroli Eau de Cologne, Neroli Sauvage, Hermes Eau de Neroli Doré, charged with the oil that smells clean, but a little nasty, oceanic, but carnal, like cheap suntan lotion, but hypnotic, somewhat metallic, but haunting, or wet dog, but one that first rolled in fresh cut grass or an herb garden, or even cigarettes stumped in an ashtray, surrounded by a lazy Susan of whiskey sours in an old tavern hosting a flower-filled wedding party, or a 1950s bowling alley lined with freshly showered couples on first dates. And although I've neither worked nor been in one, the first whiff of a 19th century French brothel, or perhaps, yes, maybe, the aroma of my great-grandma's dressing table, bless her wild woman heart. And then the other poem I'll read is really my downfall during the pandemic. Had way too much of this stuff, butter. And this is about butter eaters. And little historical note, the northern part of Europe were the butter eaters, and they were kind of juxtaposed from the Greeks and Romans, who felt like olive oil was the only oil, the only kind of cooking or substance to put on bread. And so there's still kind of that feeling today. Butter eaters, the barbaric butter eaters of the North versus olive oil imbibers of Greece and Rome, root cellar gamboge of France and Ireland, shunned by Southerners with urns of viscous flow. The richest butter, high in fatty acids and omega-3s, over 90% milk fat, yellow emperor of peasant abundance, vein strike of gastronomic gold, butter yellow as the nimbus of saints, banned during Middle Ages Lent, the ghee of India, doing hot yoga smothered in butter, tender springtime green grass easily digested by cows, speeding through 4 stomachs, yielding the most saffron butter. Still going here. Okay, moving my cursor here. From the sweet to the tangy, the feminine power of milkmaids, bringers of butter to country tables before machines replace them. Today's yellow brick road back to butter finds oleomargarine on its way out, that hydrogenated marketing darling of the late 20th century, letting butter melt again onto our tongues as it has the past 8,000 years, starring butter by the pat, the stick, the tub, the roll, the vat, the crock, the bucket, the kitchen comfort aroma of pasture butter. My mother, who put butter on everything, stayed thin as a stream of water, had the cleanest veins the angiogram techs had ever seen. kindergarten mason jar of heavy cream passed in a circle, child to child, shake after shake, each imagining a stick of butter would emerge. Buttermilk left over for pancakes, shortbread cookies long on butter, Julia Child's arsenal, butter by the pound, butter drizzled into hot baked potatoes, sliced down the middle, butter left on the table for 3 days. Yeasty bread buttered on both sides, the sexy creaming of sugar and butter. Fresh popcorn holds fast to a whole stick of melted butter. The butter lamb resurrects at Easter breakfast. Recycled butter becomes cow sculpture at the state fair. Butter of yak, sheep, and water buffalo. Butter yellow as New Mexico license plates. Butter yellow as the third prize ribbon. Butter yellow as the gates of heaven. Jealous, pale butter dyed bright from crushed annatto seeds. Butter of logic defying hollandaise. Butter massaged into turkeys before roasting. The specter of every simple food raised by butter. Luscious, buoyant cream arises, skimmed off and cultured. The churn moves up and down, in and out. The wood panel moans, the paddle slow. The moon is full, the butter comes. And just to note, that is a term used in making butter. Thank you.
Too bad we're not in a cafe. Everybody could order something to eat, especially some good cookies. Thank you, Cynthia. We have one more in the open mic tonight. So Robert Russell, Rusty, you got you're the cleanup hitter.
Sorry to be late. Can you hear me? I've been having some technical difficulties recently. I was so overjoyed when my optometrist told me that the world is not becoming more vague until he told me that it's because my cataracts are closing in. So I'll have to kind of squint as I do this. Amtrak. I woke up. We were stopped in the middle of the night, so a neon sign could remind me: brakes, shocks, struts. I turned over and went back to sleep, I think. Indiana unrolled and was lost again. Wheels are the shape of habits. Ohio held up the night once or twice, and streetlights tossed quiet coins across intersections that immediately became dreams. Morning rose like smoke from a river beside the tracks, silent fish leaping for silent insects. Balding tanker cars on a parallel track slid from the mist inches away from us and past. The sailors in the club car were still buying beer for anyone who had wished them luck at cards. They bought a lot of beer. All night, what they saw in the window was sailors losing at cards and cigarette smoke going nowhere. This is all arranged, but the schedule illegible as calculus. The hours are stuttering beneath us, and the whistle prowling heartbroken through the mountains somewhere out in front where the passengers can only hear it. Does a real engineer make that noise? Or is it automatic? A safety mechanism installed after the last expensive derailment. We have only faith and coffee here in the club car, surrendering our dreams of someplace else to the minutia of distance that scrawl past the windows. They don't open. Through other people's weather, past snapshot towns where everyone waves at trains, but only the children on the train wave back. Through sudden tunnels where your own face watches you in the glass. Someone is pulling us home. Yeah. The crush. I can't tell if you're beautiful or not. It isn't that I'm visually impaired, but your nose is big and kind of crooked. And your lips are full but formless, like a gummy candy left out in the sun. Your hair isn't completely black, There are undercurrents of sorrow and wire. And your eyes, they shine like obsidian, but are they crossed? Almost. It's hard to tell. Your legs are a little too long and just a little bit knock-kneed, so you walk with your hips thrust forward in a languorous way we used to call sashaying that annoys everyone else in urban scurry. I'd hate to be in a hurry with you. When I told you, cute hat, you tilted your head and reached up to touch it as if you'd forgotten you had it on. I knew you'd do that. No, I really can't tell if you're beautiful, but I keep thinking about it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. I'm trying not to call you Rusty. It's really hard.
Rusty is fine. I can't get used to Robert either. I don't know. I got to find another name. Maybe Albert DeGenova will be good.
There you go. You can try that on for size. Okay. Well, I want to thank all our open micers tonight. Everybody did a great job. It's great to hear you. I just want to do a couple call outs, which when we record this, you probably won't see it, but everybody who's live here right now, we have Pat Hertel is here, who's my co-editor on After Hours. And so our features tonight are both a big part of the new issue of After Hours. We have a number of people who were in After Hours, the new issue. And then we also have Bob Blinn here, who was the husband of Mary Blinn, who our contest is named after. There he is. Hey, Bob. And Bob is a big supporter of our contest, really helps out a lot. So so right now I'm going to hand it over to Kurt, and we'll bring up our featured readers. Thank you, Kurt. Again, a little shout out to Kurt Heintz, who's our technical guy, and he puts together little videos for the readings. Thank you, Kurt. Again, I said at the beginning, and I know some people joined a little bit after I started, but the Traveling Molly's open mic is something that Nina and Corwin and I have done for a very long time. I guess it's almost 20 years now. But separate from that, I also publish After Hours magazine. So tonight we're actually featuring two people from After Hours, both Kevin Burris and Carlos Cumpian. First up will be Kevin Burris, who was this year's winner of the Mary Blinn Poetry Prize, and we congratulate him on that. I'm going to just read a little bit of Kevin's bio, so you know who he is. Kevin Burris lives in Southern Illinois. His work has appeared in Southern Poetry Review, Poetry East, Atlanta Review, and many others. His poem Factory Birds was a finalist in the 2019 Mary Blinn Annual Poetry Prize. And as I said, his poem Production, which I think he'll read tonight, was the winner for this year. And his first poetry collection, The Happiest Day of My Life, was published in 2016 by Future Cycle Press. So we're honored to have you here, Kevin. Kevin Burris.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's great to hear such wonderful poetry. What a pleasure. Thanks, Pat and Kurt, and thanks also to Mark Turcat for selecting Production as the 2021 Mary Blinn winner. I'd like to begin tonight with a couple of poems that just at least offer a passing nod to Chicago. So we'll start with that. Fat Tuesday is first. Fat Tuesday. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Fat Tuesday. So I'm sitting here with Satan at the bar in the Four Seasons downtown. Shivering shoppers amble in from Water Tower, having filled their bags fat at that great Chicago retail trough. The devil buys another round. What the hell, he says. It's on me, meaning me, but what the hell. It's Fat Tuesday, and we're on our third hurricane. It's cold outside, and about to get colder, says Tom Skilling, the weatherman even demons depend on. Satan lights another lucky with his fingertips and shrugs. The gesture's out of character, he knows, just like his clothes. He's sporting splendor, all dressed up a la New Orleans. He's wearing beads, got a feather in his hat. When I comment on that, he just smiles. He's excited to be on the road again after Christmas vacation. It's the New Year's big sail swing, coast to coast across the nation. 6 solid weeks attending Lent. His sample case is packed with assorted temptation. He'll turn in early tonight, then up and at him before first light. He's got promises to break, a lot of calls to make, and we both know I'm his first. Second poem is called What I Know. What I know. Write what you know, so goes the maxim. What I know on this bright Sunday morning is that the washing machine is on spin cycle, while my wife is out hunting morels somewhere beneath the greening couture of April's oat spring wardrobe. Clyde the dog is a woolly white frog, back legs splayed through a doorway. I know I will never finish that paperback on the nightstand behind him, subtitled Intellect and Action in Aristotle's Ethics by a man who translated Plato's Phaedo. I know I miss my parents, who will by now have risen again to greet the perfect weather of yet another Sunday in a week of Sundays. I can seat them back in their pink Adirondack chairs on a freshly mown lawn, where the Cubs will play 2 today on a black and white portable, rabbit ears stretching to catch the best reception. I know I am lucky to know the things I know, to carry these coins in my pocket and to spend them here without need to imagine all the things I don't, those vast armies of science and technology, history and literature, encamped on the darkling plains around me, their fires uncountable as stars. I'd like to read a couple of poems now from my book. The Happiest Day of My Life, available through Future Cycle Press. First one is called Old Movies. Old movies. In the movie that tells the story of the past, a man in a fedora looks you right in the eye. He smokes as he talks in Tommy gun bursts, at ringside, in a nightclub, on the docks. He means business. The woman beneath her velvet cloche will cut you down to size with a glance. She draws her words like thread through a button and ties them off in tight, sure knots. If they kiss, this man and woman, after she has slapped him, after he has held her helpless, they kiss long and hard as if they might never see each other again. As if they know we are watching, each in our own comfortable darkness, longing to see how things were certain once before we were born, hatless, into a wilderness of color. Next poem is called Rainy Sidewalks by the Seine. What's her name? Claudine Langer, chanteuse, who shot a ski bum in the stomach. Wife of Andy Williams, used to coo Rainy Sidewalks by the Seine, your co-host of the Andy Williams Christmas special. Artist, mother, adulteress, murderer. I'd like to draw one drop from that dark well, those rainy sidewalks by the river, cobblestones I've never seen, the streets of Paris. I don't even know if they exist outside her musing contralto, but here they are again, soaked in a mist of jazz guitar, a little Mingus moving on bass. I see raindrops on new black leather, her shoes as she walks, the surging surface of the water, a slow, steady scat, wrought iron, not too much color in the grass. It's early May, and the world is a broken heart. Ex-con now or dead, she is forever far from mini skirts, Santa Claus, the soft spring rain, she sang, the sidewalks, the Seine. I'll read a couple of sonnets now. First, Production, this year's Mary Blinn winner. Production. At 19, my job was to break down and grind 3-foot extrusions, saw cut from the stream of hot polycarbonate on number 6 line, while operators worked to bring it on the beam. On the beam, they called it, meaning parts to print, each critical dimension remeasured and checked with calipers against drawings till they formed up and fit to tolerance, they called it, meaning they met allowances badgered from stingy engineers who hoarded each fraction and refused to commit to any decision which might wound a career, who argued with salesmen who didn't give a shit. Production, they called it, that grinding away of life for a living of my young summer days. There's another sonnet. This one's called The Call. The Call. He brushed his teeth, showered, and buttoned his white shirt. He poached an egg and ate it before he made the bed. He watched a trio of blue jays squabble, dive, and dart into the evergreen thicket of a neighbor's unpruned hedge. He scraped the frosted windshield on his winter-beaten car, then drove to work, listening as some foreign policy wonks debated heightened prospects of a Middle Eastern war. From his usual spot in the usual lot, he turned up his collar and slogged a block or so through squalls of snow and stinging spits of sleet, through taxi beeps, shrieks, and sirens, the standard city's din, to his office door where he left it all, rioting out in the street. He poured his second coffee, black, and let the job begin. The clock beside his telephone counted down without a hint. He never saw the time at all. A line lit up. He answered it. And let's see here. We now have a little confusion is what we have. Let's see here. Yes, okay. This is at the optical shop. The man in the monogrammed lab coat, starched and white, his head shaved, looking all medical and a little like a shady purveyor of ice cream, is advising an older man and his wife of the benefits the manufacturer's claims for each potential selection on a looming mirrored wall of frames. These, he is saying, offer a classic look. Think Philip Larkin, Think Jean-Paul Sartre. Think British Don in his Oxford rooms, puffing at Dunhill and lecturing on the essential ornithology of the Amazon. And these, he points out, are titanium. Think spaceships, think robots, think Arnold Schwarzenegger, indestructible cyborg rising from the Sturm und Drang. Think Q walking Bond through his secret lab, pointing to an ordinary pair of glasses. Now these, he says next with extra breath, are designer, presenting them as a queen presents a medal. Think Halston, think Gucci, think Yves Saint Laurent. Think about you, resplendent on your immaculate yacht, the cliffs of Monaco to starboard, young love immediately to port. The old folks seem uneasy. He is pulling at the patch on his injured eye. She is fidgeting with a loose thread hanging from the handle of an old fabric bag. What they want to know is, how much? Think Medicare. Think furnace repair. Think a single fast food burger split for lunch. We're gonna lighten it up a little bit with a poem called The Grand Design. The Grand Design. In this corner, Stephen Hawking, physicist extraordinaire, Lucasian professor of mathematics, cosmologist, and author of The Grand Design. He of the gravitational singularity, the black hole, and a certain radiation that bears his name. Prisoner of his own body, who spans galaxies in his mind, who counts infinities in this universe and infinite others, who has seen at last no need for any other author, no source or solace save, it is what it is. And in this corner, Sasha, 65-pound female Malamute who hates to be alone, who one day in my absence ate his book. I've got two more. This poem is called Thank God for This Blank Page. For you writers out there. Thank God for this blank page and the chance to fill it, to start again, wholehearted across new snow, a tabula rasa, to leave yesterday's locked room, its Procrustean bed and mirrored window, to rise with a clear sky early on a crisp November morning, while light still lingers in the moon, to fill a cup with fresh coffee, fetch the dog, and together walk an unmapped path through glittering drifts, down to where the wind writes the latest of its many names in waves on open water. And we'll finish up with balance. And thank you again, Al and Pat, for inviting me to read. Balance. The dog walks by with an octopus toy in her mouth. May Day, first of the month. Outside, the trees can't imagine any more green. Everything is as it should be for once, not a misplaced mote of dust in this sunbeam. My therapist and I will have nothing to talk about. I place Carl Jung and his purposeful work on my shelf and sip the scented tea of contentment. If there is another life, some spiritual counterweight to this Zen of the moment, I must also be sitting there, steam rising from a cup this close to overflowing. Thank you.
Wow, so nice. Thank you, Kevin. And wish everybody could unmute to clap, but that's the unfortunate part of this this media. Great job. I was doing some call outs before, and I didn't mention Dan Campion is on here, who's a great supporter of After Hours. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Dan, and a regular contributor, fine poet. And now our feature of the night is Carlos Cumpian. And Carlos is our feature tonight, but he's also the featured writer in After Hours, as I've probably said a million times already. But we're really proud to have Carlos in the magazine as our feature. And I've known him a long time, and many of you from the Chicago area have known Carlos's poetry from his many days on the stage in Chicago. So by way of introduction, Carlos is an author of 4 poetry collections: Coyote Sun, Latino Rainbow, Armadillo Charm, and 14 Abriles poems. He's, I'm cutting this short. You can read his full bio in the magazine. He was the editor at Marchabrazo Press from 1982 to 2012, which is a really long time. So if my math is correct, that's 30 years. And that beat, Carlos, that beat After Hours, which is at 21 years now. So, and Carlos has taught creative writing and poetry through community arts organizations, including the National Museum of Mexican Art, as well as at Columbia College in Chicago and the University of Illinois in Chicago. He taught English and ESL for 23 years in the Chicago public school and charter school systems, and he survived. Good for you, Carlos. And now, it's my pleasure, Carlos Cumpian.
It's my pleasure to be here. Damas y caballeros, good evening. We're going to have storms out there in Chicagoland. I want to thank everyone from After Hours, of course, that whoever was responsible, all of you that were responsible for making such an attractive issue. It's stunning. It's really great selections of imagery, photography, and a great, wonderful, thick issue of poems. I also want to thank Kurt Heintz for being the guy behind the scenes, making everything kind of flow. Yeah, Kurt, it's good to see you. Open mics. The last real open mic I went to was with I think the Traveling Mollies, and we were over by Clark Street near Andersonville, and that little hut and that behind the scenes place. That was pretty nice. Traveling, a lot of us know that we've been chomping at the bit, wanting to go out and travel, and some of us do. I mean, get up to the woods, right? Or go out to the beach or something. But for a while, it was very questionable where you would go and who you would go with and how you would get there and so forth and so on. I'm from Texas originally, and I have to always go back to see family and so forth. And so we went through all those nice big hot spots that are bright red through the red states. And we came back, and I don't know. I don't think we got too sick. Traveling. Before all of this happened, my wife and I celebrated our anniversary by going to a place we had never been, and we went to Iceland. And coming back, I wrote this poem, and it goes like this: Snowvember travels. As the plains cone bottom tip burst to white tigers and dragon-shaped clouds that for 5 hours surrounded us, I wanted feet on the Icelandic beach or in the blue lagoon again. Once on the ground, just above us, not one but two suns, just a tongue in the sky made of rain and curiosity, formed over the shores of cold Lake Michigan. We traveled far, and it offered me a chance to become a stoic meteorologist. With the what truth that I saw in trance after you asked what was coming, I gestured with hands rolling over and over. Confusion, everything upside down, I said. Eventually, thorns of missed opportunities will lead from the soles of our feet, while the sun's golden pollen arrowhead will rise again at the edge of an inland sea behind eyelashes and months of masks. All right, that's my opener. Traveling. So I had never really been to Tennessee, and I took this poem away from that experience. The last concert at Rivendell. After sun descends and moon climbs the darkening sky, slowly she breaks through a gallery of clouds to inspire an inescapable choir of 10,000 invisible tree inhabitants. Their opus begins as a gabble of a beaded rain, saturating air. July's warm breeze carried the insistent, stirring, striking, similar to gourd rattles, strapped to the calves and ankles of the Mashika dancer, moving in unison, going past pain where exhaustion would be normal, the decibels soar. Listening carefully for an additional layer, I hear deer antlers being rubbed together against stands of old bark clusters of wooded yellow poplar, witch hazel, hickories, hawthorns, hackberry, red maples. The seed bead percussionists hold vigil outside our windows, while hungry bats swoop in and around the grounds. The night's verdant blanket over Tennessee woods cools as summer's insects orchestra play on. Yeah, it's a fascinating place. If you've never been there, I guess it was a retreat at one point for writing. Walker Percy, does that ring a bell with anybody's name? Yes. His ghost haunts that place we were at. Very interesting. If you had speaking of haunted, I was haunted by a job I once had, and I worked as a consultant for the Chicago Public Library. After having been a full-time employee, I was hired to work with the Weigel family, Maurice and Helen Weigel, to document their travels of 30 years across this planet. And I was to look at pictures and write captions of each photo that they gave me so that we would create this huge CD-ROM. And it was like, I had the Harold Washington Library Center's resources at my disposal, but this is before there was the internet. So I really was working with books. And so what I'm talking about was looking at pictures and their travels to Turkey. I'd have to say, yes, this was this part of Turkey, or this, here they are in the Greek islands here, and so forth. And you'd have to write these captions, and some of them were kind of blow off, but some of them were very deeply researched, but enough so that you wouldn't have eyes glaze over. So that was one of the things. And so in the process of doing that, I worked with two other gentlemen, and this poem came from that. It's called Company Manners. Steamier than a night watchman's chair cushion in Alabama, hotter than a Mexican woman meteorologist on Spanish TV. We're here in the new tropical Chicago. You got that overburdened coat rack in January look, but you should be smiling. It's July. There's hot and cold coffee, stale and fresh flavors in the shape of donuts and bagels. And we have a bowl of GABA-calm dopamine receptors available in lemon and orange. And there's chair yoga from 7:45 to 8:15 in the employee lounge. Yeah, the same one that's been under construction for years. Now it's nearing 94 in the loop, honking cars and crowded concrete. And now we make the 1 p.m. dash for our super caffeine sugar-laden lunches, walking as fast as legally permissible, moving like boneless squids across the wireless landscape, making no eye contact under our dark glasses. We have slave status silk ties up to the Adam's apple, collars starched snug and top buttoned, long sleeves rolled all the way down
to our flexible metal or cow leather banded sweat-soaked watches that peek out under cloth fabric. We agreed any guy removing his blue blazer or khaki-colored sport coat is paying for lunch. Returning to the central air, rehydrating coolness of capitalism at its fashionable best, I wash my hands and dry them in contrast to the spongy moistness of my cotton socks and ask myself, who else does masochistic games like me and these guys I work with? Okay, so you do what you can to entertain yourself while working, I guess. When I was a young guy just coming to Chicago, I did not really know what was going on. And I got here, I came to Chicago at age 14. I spent my formative years in the Southwest. And I heard there was a free rock concert going on in Lincoln Park. And some of you might have been here when that was going on. It was August 1968. Here's my poem. It's called Mistaken Identity. A maroon ribbon spurts from my right nostril. Dry blood pastes my hair against my face. My left eye swells shut in a socket as a caldera of pain blooms, leaving me blind from the crack of a billy club. On my side in the back of a grimy patrol car, they pin my arms together in over-tightened handcuffs. The goon's face near me taunts and taunts, but now in a rage, I deliver a leather kick to his pug-nosed snout. In response, he pushes a revolver barrel against my chest. Pull the trigger, asshole. I don't want to live in a world where shit like you exist, I tell him. And he answers, I would, but there'd be a riot. At the station, I'm carried out by two uniformed brutes. They dangle me above a barking police dog cage. Laughing, they say, open it up, drop him in. Momentarily, I remember my catechism, the story of Daniel, when he was put inside the pagan lion's den. I pull my legs up to my chest and they laugh and relent. I desperately prayed their torture wouldn't increase. I told the guy, look, you got the wrong guy. I handed them my new school ID, but they tore it up and scattered it on the floor. Inside, I'm chained to a chair for 5 hours, deprived of water while being asked stupid questions, until finding out I wasn't who they wanted. And then they hauled me out to juvie. A day later, I was bailed out. You might say I was one Chicano who got to experience what the 1968 Democratic National Convention was all about. All right. I learned something. There's really no free music in Chicago. You gotta pay a price. Maybe some of you were here when Sly and the Family Stone didn't show up and they had that riot down on Lakeshore Drive. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that happened. Yeah, Chicago. What else do I have here? Whoa. So I wanted to talking about music. I definitely have something I want to share with music, and I think we do. We actually had it published in the new issue, but I'm going to conclude. I will probably conclude with that. And one of the things that I discovered, of course, being in Chicago, there's some tough people here. It's a tough city. Buffalo, New York is tough too, by the way. I just went in there and I thought that these guys are the character on Popeye Bluto must be based on all the men in Buffalo, New York. I mean, they're just brutes. My buddy was wearing red pants and he was from Vermont and they just wanted to jump him. I don't know. It's called I Do My Working Out in a Grunge Gym. There's no air conditioning, just 7 ceiling fans and only 5 ever spin. So shower before you come in. And if you wash your hands, there's a mechanic slop sink located inside a closet next to the 8 tiny lockers, big as shoe boxes, which accommodate next to nothing. Now there's free parking across a busy street where gangsters keep watch on you from their apartments. So maybe your car might lose a tire or get towed if you decide to get back late. Steady, sweating gals and guys thud smash large free weights, doing it before large picture windows with burning fluorescents. But there's no gawkers that ever stop to smear the glass for the fear of the brutes inside. There's no drinking fountain, so you should have brought your own H2O. Ignore the wall clock. It's broken like the handle above the toilet hole. The nice thing about the place is when you enter, no one acknowledges your presence unless grunts count. Everyone's too busy doing sit-ups and 50-pound kettlebell squats. If you're ever bothered by too much moisture in your area, the manager will offer you some Windex and a rag. Some nights the air is an assortment of international male jock funk, Africans straight from Ghana, Mexicans from towns missing men, Filipinos from 100 listless islands, and third-gen Chicagoans and newly tattooed farm boys and Highlanders from Poland and Ukraine. The desk guy is named Dakota. I wondered if he was native. Sort of looks it. Got that thick, dark, straight hair, almond tip eyes. He says Japanese and Irish, and speaks better than a public radio reporter. Occasionally, he'll write an encouraging message in chalk on the wall as his blonde girlfriend does 200-pound deadlifts. Don't be disappointed with the results that you got. Just think of the work you didn't do today and stop looking at my girlfriend, fool. That's that. All right. Let me do, speaking of bodies, we went to Texas, I mentioned, and I took my grandboys with us to a place where I used to live in San Antonio. And it was the day before Halloween when I was 9 years old when this event happened where I got to go out. I didn't know what I was going to be for Halloween. And because of what happened, I got to be Cyclops. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But it's called Even Your Best Body Will Bleed. Sharp poke of a bamboo fork. Chopstick splinter at the tip of your pointer finger starts to fester. A wooden bat across an unsuspecting skull. Split lips on black ice. The fall ruins your stride. A tooth collides with a wild grape's rock-hard seed. Skid and crash on a tab of butter. Spin out under. Wet gravel while riding bike in rain. The picnic game ends when a plastic frisbee is flung with full force at an exposed thigh. Leg is swollen to purple-blue hematoma. Playing war, this is where it comes. Playing war, we in El Monte, instead of a park, listen for enemies approaching us. When we heard footsteps and branches snapping, alerted me, then smack, right against my nose's bridge, a stone cracked my 9-year-old skin and cartilage. Stunned, I reach and gently rub between the sockets. A second later, a torrent of bright blood. Should I be a miniature Goliath and fall on my knees, or keep standing so I can be seen? A 12-year-old boy who accidentally on purpose hit me rushes to pinch tight what has opened. But how will I get to the doctor? I can't remember. Once stitched up, I consider the loss of tomorrow's Halloween candies. I consider maybe I can go as Cyclops by drawing a huge eye on the patch of gauze instead of wearing a hard plastic devil mask. The fact I didn't lose an eye or a tooth or my nose is cause enough for celebration. Collecting trick or treat was the thing to do for those who have been wounded in the lower Rio Grande Valley during the dry summer of '62. Your best body can run like the hunting hounds are chasing you. Your leaps and sprints at legs were made for these bushes and chain-link obstacles. Once I carried a football across a school field until a team of 4 opposing guys buried me in their 6th grade sweat pile. Thankfully, I had a helmet. Those moments, for moments, I couldn't see or breathe. And I was pulled off, grasped by ankles. I was asked, was it worth it? Not a damn thing now, not a damn thing. Only my chest hurts. All right. So that's that. And let me end my piece with my poem. I was inspired to write this poem having heard live electronica. And some of you probably have, because the group has been around for 50 years, is Kraftwerk. And some of you have probably heard their electronica. And the author of the music I listen to is a big fan of Kraftwerk. So if you know that electronica, then you'll know maybe what this might sound like. The name of the poem is Calm Panic. You offer us sonic bread, composed of well-needed beats, turn spirals out of triangles, electric, audio dominant soars, calls up boisterous ghosts, set to dancing. Muscle memories bring fingertip calluses where talent rules, releases a roaring Niagara Falls where we drown in your opus sound playground. Eyes on you as you levitate the room, take us for a wild ride down Bryn Mawr, revealing the youthful grace across your face. Smiles spring from the still combing, going bald in Q-tip heads that bob to your rhythmic rolling. All drunk on note symmetry, winged dreams sailing across the ceiling. No one can see the walls anymore. Prisoners to your cinematic hailstorm, volcanic eruption, snowstorm, wind shear, tornado blowing decibels of delight in the fresh breeze bliss that beckons amid the fading summer. As asymmetrical danger leaps out at us from the deep shadowy favela of the outside windows crack at the high note. Piercing drum percussion without warning, all soar above eagles and satellites after your inner keyboard pilot is given permission for liftoff in savage illumination. That's it. Thank you much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. That was
welcome.
really excellent.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. And Kevin, thank you as well. Two great features and a wonderful open mic. Thank you all for being here. It's really, it's really nice to see some old friends and some faces that I've never seen before. So just let everyone know that we're going to post the recording of tonight's event. Probably be tomorrow sometime. We're going to post it on YouTube. And I'll send out an email to everyone who read tonight, and we'll also post it on the Traveling Molly's Facebook page. And with that, I'll say we'll see you next month. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Good night. Buenas noches.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Gracias.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
set.
everyone.
Really amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bonsoir.
Bye. Thanks a lot. It was great.
See you, Bob.
Bye.
Good work, everyone. Congratulations, Kevin.